Well, it's been a long time since I've done a book haul, so I decided to fire up my phone and get filming. I've got some really cool stuff, which is one of the reasons I decided to do a book haul. I've got some absolute bangers from Glenn Cook. This is a first printing of this collection of the first 3 books of the Dread Empire series. It's from Nightshade Books, and they're really cool. I haven't found a book from them that I haven't liked when it comes to print quality and just the quality of the books themselves, like the writing. I've got Winter's Dream, which is a Subterranean Press printing. This is a first edition, first printing. I don't know if there was another printing. This thing's numbered, so it's not like there's very many of them out there. I got both of these off of eBay for like a price I couldn't refuse. I put it in my watch list, and within a couple hours on both of them, they were like, hey, what if we knock off $8? I'm like, okay, I'll buy them. And this last one from Glenn Cook, this is super cool. Like, I've talked about it before, but Glenn Cook is my favorite writer by like a huge margin. And so for about the next year, my goal is to slowly get everything I can that he's written in the highest quality I can afford. Like, I'm not going to chase that $400 Black Company printing and stuff like that. I just want to improve the quality of the Glenn Cook collection I own while collecting the last pieces I need. And this one, Sung in Blood, is really cool. Let me crack this thing open. It's from NESFA Press, which is New England Science Fiction Association. This is number 239 out of 800. The first 210 were like signed slipcase editions. This isn't one of those, but this bad boy is signed. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it from there. And it's signed for Joe. Now, I am not the original Joe, but I am a Joe. So I'm going to say this is signed for me until I actually get something signed by Glenn Cook if I ever get to meet him in person, which would just, be something I can check off the bucket list. This book, Sung in Blood, was when he was the Boscone Guest of Honor. Boscone is a science fiction and fantasy convention up in Boston. And that's not the only Boscone Guest of Honor book I have. So I talked about Walter John Williams when I was discussing Wildcards, and that I thought he was sneaking up on becoming like the best writer in Wildcards. He wrote some of my favorite stories in book 2. And so I started looking for some of his work. He has a lot of like cyberpunk style stuff. And I found this, Frankensteins and Foreign Devils. And this thing was when he was the guest of honor at Boscone, I think like 5-6 years after Glenn Cook was a guest of honor. And this is from NESFA Press as well. This one's not signed. There was a signed one where I got this copy, but the signed one was a trade paperback, and I'm not about that. When I can choose between a paperback, even a trade paperback, or a limited edition numbered hardcover, I'm going for the numbered hardcover. The signed would be cool, but it's still there at the bookshop. I might buy it eventually just to have it. And what's really cool about this is it has one of his stories from Wildcards. It has like an early version of it, Bag Lady. Bag Lady's a trip, man. I love the whole Bag Lady thing in Wildcards too. And so the ability to read like an earlier version is just going to be awesome. And yeah, those two, I thought it was cool that I found those Boscone books. And now I've looked on their website and I've seen all the other stuff they have, and I've missed books that were Boscone books. And now I'm annoyed because they are a limited print run for the guest of honor. So you can order them from Boscone. And speaking of which, NESFA Press has the Roger Zelazny collected stories, and it's like 5 books, and they're amazing. Like, I've only looked at some of them digitally, but they're often used for citations for different things on like Wikipedia and stuff for Roger Zelazny. And so there's all these little intros that are just amazing bits of information about Roger Zelazny, along with like all of his beautiful collected stories. So those are on my short list of things I really need to start collecting. But let's move on to some other cool things I found. The Space Merchants by Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. Now, this book, I really didn't plan on picking it up, but I sold a bunch of paperback books and I couldn't decide what else I needed to get with store credit, because I'm trying to get over that store credit limit so that I use all my store credit. I think they'll let you store it, but I'm not about that life. I'm just going to spend it all when I'm there. And so I picked this up because it has a really cool premise. It was written in 1952, and it's just like this dystopian future of, American commercialism, and like the earth is like resource depleted, and we've still got these corporations that'll like feed your kids lead paint if it'll help them turn a profit, stuff like that. And there's this like, it's like an ad executive dude who is trying to sell moving to Venus, even though it sucks. It's like Mad Men in a dystopian future that's just like the end result of what the 1950s consumerist culture is. Books. And I thought that was super cool. And it's like a short book. It's like 115 pages or something. So I'm definitely going to read that sooner than later because it just seems cool. Oh, and the other thing, it's a science fiction book club 50th anniversary edition. And I don't think it's special or anything, but it has a number 2 on the spine, which worries me because if there's like a number to this collection for the 50th anniversary, it's going to take a lot for me to avoid collecting them. I'm like a chronic completionist. So that's a bit of a problem. These next 2 are cool. I got them for about half of what they go for normally. Thank you, the Library Ladder, for letting me know. But then you also told me that there's like 13 in the collection, which means that I have a lot more books to buy. The Ultimate Egoist, Volume 1, The Complete Stories of Theodore Sturgeon. So Theodore Sturgeon is like one of the OG science fiction writers. And the interesting thing about Theodore Sturgeon is the level of praise he gets from some of the greatest writers of all time. And yeah, the thing with Theodore Sturgeon is, let me find this. So Samuel R. Delany, you know, a guy who's won Nebula and Hugo Awards and stuff, one of the greatest science fiction writers of all time. To the extent that the short story is an art, Sturgeon is the American short story writer. The fact that he happened to be writing in science fiction was a glorious accident. That is one hell of a quote. And then we've got Poul Anderson, one of my favorite writers of all time, one of the finest writers of our time, by any standards whatsoever. Reissue of his work is a genuine public service and should be an occasion of joy to all literate folk. That is some high praise. I hadn't even read the back when I was deciding to get the book. I just saw Theodore Sturgeon and I want collections of his work. And so I ended up opening it just to kind of decide whether or not I really wanted to buy it. And the very first thing I see is forwards by Ray Bradbury, Arthur C. Clarke, and Gene Wolfe. It's like, well, there you go. I'm sold. Those 3 guys are writing forwards for this? Like, holy crap. Talk about a vote of confidence from people you can trust. So yeah, I got that. I'm super hyped. This next one's cool. So I just recently got the Nightshade Books trade paperbacks of Clark Ashton Smith's fantasy writings. And one of the things that I had been eyeballing but knew I'd never be able to get was Hyperborea. It's like a little mass market paperback of Clark Ashton Smith's fantasy stuff. It's like $40 to $70 for a ratty acid-ridden mass market paperback. So I was like, nah. And then I found this at Recycled Books, and this thing is freaking awesome. Not only is there only like 30 to 40% of overlap between my collected fantasy works of his, but this thing has, probably hard to see from here, look how bright that is, Hyperborea. So it has that like $40 paperback in it, along with like 3 other mass market paperbacks, basically. So this is super freaking cool. And the other thing is, this is a Neville Spearman UK hardcover. I've never seen a hardcover of Clark Ashton Smith stuff from the UK. I've got one hardcover up there, and it's a collection of some of Clark Ashton Smith's work, and I'm eyeballing another hardcover that's a collection of his letters, and it was published by Arkham House, and that is going to be super cool. I'm hoping I can sell some crap to the bookstore and or get some Christmas money and buy that bad boy. But anyways, yeah, Clark Ashton Smith has been on my short list for writers I really want to take a deep dive on because he's one of the original big 3. I mean, you're looking at Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, and Clark Ashton Smith. And some people say Clark Ashton Smith is the better writer of those 3. And I love Robert E. Howard, and almost anyone can write better than H.P. Lovecraft, so that's not saying much, but I'm really hoping Clark Ashton Smith lives up to the hype. Speaking of Robert E. Howard, picked up this hardcover first printing of Robert E. Howard Changed My Life. Initially, I didn't buy this. I saw it at Recycled Books, and I was like, I already got some like nonfiction about Robert E. Howard and his career and stuff. And then I was browsing the internet as one does when they're on the toilet, and I saw an article from Steven Erikson, and it was discussing his essay that's in this book and about how Sword and Sorcery heavily influenced Malazan, which I say all the time that I bring up Malazan and or Sword and Sorcery. But anyways, I was like, holy crap, that essay's in here? And then I crack this thing open, and there's an essay from Michael Moorcock, Howard Andrew Jones, and at the bottom, what I missed the first time is Janet Morris. Like, she helped with Thieves World. It's like, holy crap, this is like a who's who of some of my favorite writers of this last year, just all in this and about how important Robert E. Howard was to their lives. So I'm super hyped that I got that. And now I got one last book. So let's go down a completely different path that I didn't know I was going to go down. But I'm in the Fantasy Network Discord, and someone was reading this book, and I thought, that seems cool. And I love Valancourt Books. They're awesome. This is Blackwater by Michael McDowell. And I was reading the intro. I bought this blind. Like, I got the audio book, and I was like, well, I got to use my store credit, and this is a beautiful hardcover, and it's new. So not only does Valancourt Books get some money, Michael McDowell gets some money, and my favorite bookstore gets some money. That's just a win-win-win. Yeah, I picked this up because it was the only one I've seen in person. Anyways, this book, I read the description to my wife, and it was the first time I had read the description. I just knew that it was good and it was spooky. Holy crap. Then come to find out, Michael McDowell wrote the screenplays for Beetlejuice, The Nightmare Before Christmas, as well as a script for Thinner. It's like, what? Holy crap. And like this thing originally came out as smaller books in 1983, and this is just the collection of them. And yeah, I'll be getting to this. Got to be next year because there's only 1 month left of the year, and I've got so much crap to read before the end of the year. Like, it's going to be punishing. I'm basically ignoring all of my podcasts and letting them slowly build up and stress me out while I listen to audiobooks instead of podcasts. And I'm trying to spend more and more time reading here at home. I'll cover that stuff in my book wrap up for November. But yeah, this book haul was pretty cool. This was spread over like a week. I went to the bookstore and then I had some stuff show up from eBay. I got this thing for $10. $10 freaking dollars. A signed Glenn Cook book for $10. Couldn't believe it. Also, it shipped from like 35 miles away from here, which is really weird because the shipping label was made in Illinois. And I'm like, man, this ain't going to get here in time for the video. I wanted to share this with everyone. And then it showed me like 35 miles away and then it got here in like a day and a half. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and this bad boy, like I didn't mention it before, this is like $15 because they knocked a ton off of it as soon as I added it to the watch list. So there's a pro tip. You're on eBay and you have the money to back it up. That's the problem, is I really didn't need to buy these. Well, you never need to buy them, but I added them on my watch list as more of a, these are the cheapest ones with the best condition and I'm just going to watch them. And then both of them just bam, within 2 hours were like, you want it for $8 off or whatever it was, something ridiculous. One of them was like 40% off of what they originally had it listed as. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll buy it. I wasn't planning on it. And like with this one, it was on my watch list, but it was like a bidding thing. And like no one had bid on it. I had like 2 hours left. And I'm like, $10? Well, yeah, I'm gonna throw $10 at a signed Glenn Cook book. It's just ridiculous. But anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this book haul. I haven't done a book haul in a while. I don't know how popular they are. Most of them just don't get watched, but then I get comments from people who say they enjoy them. So I'm going to keep making them. They're fun. Gives me a chance to talk about a bunch of books at one time. And I got other book hauls on my channel. I got book reviews, and I'm still doing what I'm going to start calling the 3 under 300, where I do 3 books under 300 pages that are an important part of the science fiction and fantasy conversation. So check those out on my channel, and I'll see you next time.